cartoons from present in the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, the gayest podcast since gay came to Gaytown. I'm one of your hosts, insane creature guy Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever who is here with me today.
Hey, it's Henry Gilbert, and I'm just a sailor on shore leave.
And today's episode is the Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode, The Shaving.
Just go put on your ballerina shoes and get the rest of the outfit. Be who you really are. Dr. Zhivago. Yeah, you suck.
Yes, for one of our many Halloween episodes this October, we are returning to Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and I will say most episodes are horror episodes because there's always some new monster ready to kill Carl or Shake, or both.
Yeah, at least in the first 40 episodes. I think they get even crazier after that, but I think you're right. The first seasons are just a new monster shows up and tears someone apart, or they don't even need a monster and just say Carl is torn apart by a toilet and just a head. Yes,
or like a tree tears the skin off or something. But so at the beginning of the year, our partners were worried about us. They said, you're doing too much podcasting, young man. And we were like, I guess. So we decided to roll out with a new plan where we would, just return to one old episode, one old series every month. And to date, we have not done that the right way because every time we've done it, we've made it more complicated for ourselves. We'd be like, oh, let's do Tiny Toons again. No, wait, let's do the Plucky Duck Show instead. Or let's do Ren and Stimpy again. No, let's do that, but also get one of the animators on. So every time, because we're too ashamed of the possibility of not overworking, we still overwork. So this time, for the first time, we are going to phone it in, but not really. We are going to do what we said we would do at the beginning of the year by just revisiting an episode, no new history, a few new fun things, of course, to talk about before the show, but we're going to just talk about the episode because we already gave you the history back in 2018. I think December of 2018.
Man, boy, I'm already getting into my Meatwell voice. Yeah, because we always say to ourselves, it's so hard to pick just one episode of a show to do when we choose it, and you always end up, leaving something out. And Aqua Teen, especially for me in the first, 4 seasons of it, there's so many that were my favorite episodes. So,
these are so inscribed in my memory. This is like pre-podcast days for me where my background noise would be me just replaying my Adult Swim tape in the background or just leaving it on because it was on every goddamn night, replaying the same episodes of things you'd seen. In 2003, there were only so many new Adult Swim shows, too. So I probably had seen this one 20 times in broadcast TV.
Not to mention I had such I had a growing but not huge collection of DVDs with TV shows on them, and so I'd cycle through the Adult Swim ones. If I was getting tired, boy, I've listened to the Simpsons one enough times now, I should really go to a different thing. Then Aqua Teen would enter the pick.
Those DVDs are really cool too.
They're really great. Yeah, I had lent you, I pulled it out of storage, my ancient Aqua Teen one, and we both watched it a bit, and I was like, man, the DVD menus, how much effort they put into looking like shit on those DVD menus are really good.
For about 90 minutes worth of content total. But yeah, there's the DVDs are great. This one is really good because there's a documentary about how the two creators write an episode, and it's very boring actually, but it's fun to just see them at one of their houses in Atlanta just going back and forth with ideas and seeing how they basically wrote every one of these the same way.
Which is why in this episode I love the spirit of writing live, because somebody will say a joke and then the other character I get it. It's not that funny. And they just keep it in there.
There's some good writing room banter in this show. But yeah, since we did this podcast, I've learned a tiny bit more about Aqua Teen Hunger Force. There was the great Adult Swim podcast, our direct competitors. So don't listen to them too much. But they update pretty sporadically. So often they'll do series, they did an episode for every new Rick and Morty this season. But often they will do these interview episodes. And one of them was episode 11. If featured Dana Snyder, the voice of Master Shake, and a long interview with him about his history with the show and how he got on the show. And it really highlights just how dire financially the show was for anyone creative involved in it in the very beginning. He talks about recording the Jigglebilly episode, I believe in the first season, maybe early second season. But
commenced to jiggling.
David Krause was on that one, of course, and he talked about Dana Snyder, of course. He talked about having the flu so bad he had to lay down in the recording booth to record it, and he was so afraid he was going to get fired. When the show was a hit, he was like terrified, and I believe he said he made $200 per episode.
That's all horrible. Like that he would feel such worry that he was gonna lose his job just if he called in sick one day. Like I'm used to that kind of precarity in a job market, but I'm not on television, you know?
And that's probably why, like, Carrie Means, the voice of Frylock, needed a GoFundMe for, like, surgery, because they're not making royalties from any of this stuff.
No, yeah, I saw, too, like, Carrie Means had, like, a housing issue, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so terrible that all that happened to a guy who, like, I don't know, even modest residuals. Like, I feel like Adult Swim owes them $2,000 a month for the rest of their lives. Just a UBI for being on that show. But of course they don't have to do that. Like there's no reason to.
I think now they probably pay realer money, probably not as real as like, you know, Fox or Comedy Central or whatever. But back then they were like, well, this is all so shaky and we can afford to pay you more, but we won't. So, but now you can be an established hit on Adult Swim. I feel like it's harder for them to get away with paying you $200 to do an episode of voice acting.
Yeah, I mean the difference in scale from Aqua Teen, like Aqua Teen and classic William Street Productions are all in a hallway in Atlanta, and like Snyder, I think he lived in New York, but most of them were like local Georgia actors, and so it was all this like cheaper fly-by-night thing that you could just get away with because it's like, well, you're not really in SAG, you're not really in these things. But Rick and Morty is produced by Hollywood people in Hollywood.
With real-ass voice actors outside of the creator. I guess who is a real-ass voice actor? What am I saying? He did voices on like fish hooks and stuff before he was making his own cartoons.
Yeah, and Adventure Time. He's a perfect... Oh, and is Brendan Blevins in Gravity Falls.
That's right.
But also, yeah, like you aren't gonna treat Frasier's daughter the way you treat Carrie Means, though they both deserve the same level of respect.
Or else she'll call in Frasier boss. Oh, come now, really? $200.
I also just rewatched all of Venture Brothers, and I was thinking the same thing. Like in the season 6 and 7, especially, and 5, they had so many like actual famous people guests that I feel like they must have done like, no, we got to pay these people real things. Like,
like where that show came from, I feel like you can afford one real voice actor, and that was
Patrick Warburton.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was the guy who had established voice acting talent. James Urbaniak was not a known quantity. He was an improv guy, I'm guessing, or a comedian or something.
You know, it's funny you asked that. This is turning into a Venture Brothers podcast, but it's after the cancellation, I pulled out this massive tome of the Venture Brothers art book. And I read the first like 30 pages. And so, yeah, what it was, Brock's voice, Patrick Warburton, had just worked on Tick that Chris McCullough, Jackson Public worked on.
The 2001 Tick.
Yes, the 2001 Tick. And he just was like, he liked him. Warburton liked McCullough. And so when Public asked him, hey, would you do a voice in this pilot? Yes, he said yes. And James Urbaniak, he was like a friend of a friend, and he'd seen him in the New York acting scene. And the second he heard him, he's like, "Oh, that's the Doc voice right there." So, and then for Dean, he said he also needed a friend of a friend suggestion, but that's Mike Sinternicholas, who's like a professional voice director for anime, so he knows what that pays and probably accepted a certain level of payment.
And then Doc Hammer and Jackson Public just do all other 40 voices on the show.
But I think Aqua Teen, far more informal than that.
Yeah, and this really brought me back to an era, like, it's weird to be nostalgic for an era where the world, I think, was worse. Now it's not, I'm not really sure, but I was a lot less happy than I am now. But I was getting nostalgic for 2003 when this episode aired. And I remember I was living at home going to school for an English degree, a good choice on my part. And just, I can remember the setup in my room. Like, my TV was next to my computer desk, and just always having Adult Swim on. Like, Adult Swim was like my MTV for that era. Like, for like 2001 to 2007, I would say, probably.
When you push yourself to like, well, I got to stay up to like 1, they never show this kind of stuff any other time
You
of the
need
day.
to watch the whole block.
Yeah, it doesn't count if you don't. Yeah, Aqua Teen was always on for me too. Even like, it's why I would be an anti-Family Guy snob, but I'd also be like, well, I should just watch every episode of Family Guy. It's on Adult Swim.
It's on TV, and I'll just watch. Let me see. So it was like 11 p.m. to like 2 a.m.
Yeah, and then it was Family Guy and Futurama got to be the 10 p.m. when they took over 10 p.m. That's they got to be the bridge of like, this is network dirtiness, not Adult Swim dirtiness. Yeah, but Aqua Teen constantly on. I loved every episode of it. I love that they had the cool guests who I knew, and I'd be like, oh, I know who that voice is, but
All not using their real names, but you could tell it was them.
Yeah, again, that's just like, that's even bigger friend favors. Like, you know, Patrick Warburton, he's still by name on Venture Brothers, and I'm sure he accepted a much lower than usual. I bet Disney paid him a lot more than the Venture Brothers did, but he's by name. Like, while meanwhile, Aqua Teen is like, you know, it's whatever name David Cross made up. To the fact that they can't, even on the commentaries recorded 17 years ago, they're like, nope, don't say who that was.
But yeah, like the third episode was, I didn't know who H. John Benjamin was, but I was like, it's Coach McGurk and Ben Katz.
Yeah.
He's here too. But yeah, just, it was the cool show to do for alt comics in this era. And when I was like really getting into comedy around this time, especially like cool alternative stand-ups and improv and stuff like that, like I was like, oh my God, like Brian Posehn is on this, and Todd Barry is on this, and John Glazer is on this. Did I say Patton Oswalt yet?
No.
Okay, Patton
too,
Oswalt was on it, and Tom Goes to the Mayor and stuff like that. It was like these people letting you know that they thought it was cool as well.
Yeah, and rewatching it now on HBO Max, I've been replaying it, and it's just kind of, you know, it's just this nice little fuzz in the background, though. Definitely, you see the parts that don't age too well when you're watching it now.
There's a lot of early 2000s language in this, but usually coming out of Master Shake, so it's not like they're endorsing the use of, like, in this episode, there's the R slur for, you know, intellectually disabled person. It was thrown around a lot. I even said it a lot in the early 2000s. I was not better than this.
No, I mean, we should. It's especially as a suburban white kid, you're like, oh, come on, shock value. I'll just say dirty things like you. And we weren't recorded saying it. That's the positive for us.
Exactly. If you're on a podcast before, I don't know, 2008, you're ultra canceled.
Yeah, no, I mean, I keep cancellations in my back pocket that I can say, like, oh, yeah, I remember when a podcaster I really liked said the other R word a bunch of times, and it kind of made me like go, man, that's weird. Or, oh, you're calling this person gay on this podcast in a pejorative way. That's good. Nice. Yeah. But in 2003, how it was.
Yeah, it was the shock value, the ironic racism, stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of that in the series, but it is very much a product of its time. And I think, like, things just got a lot meaner after Bush got elected, after 9/11. Like, there was recently, I don't know, within the past 6 months, a Wonder Chosen oral history.
Yes,
and it really explains why the show is just so mean and disgusting. It's because they started making it the day that Bush was reelected president, and it was all of their fury kicked off from there.
Both that show, Wonder Chosen, I want us to do an episode of that eventually on here, but every time I return to this, like, such a raw nerve and painful, and there's stuff in it that I'm just like, out of context, this is just like brutal and kind of hateful, honestly, or it sounds that way. And I feel like if you didn't live through that, I'm sounding like a person from the Summer of Love, but if you
weren't there, man,
but if you weren't there in 2005, 6, like, you didn't know how horrible it felt every day to know, like, George Bush still is the fucking president, this asshole who stole it and killed 1 million people, and I'll never be rid of this guy. I want to be fucking pissed about this all the time. I mean, I guess I'm older now. I mean, I am pissed about Trump, but I'm also just like, whatever.
The anger has dissipated with age, I think.
Yeah, which that's something too with this show. When I try to do the math on it, it is like shocking because obviously to both of us, 2003 doesn't feel that long ago.
No, it was just yesterday.
But I get, what was 17 years before 2003? That was 1986. So
oh my God.
when you do that math, it actually is a long time ago.
And we're coming up on so December of 2000 is when the pilot aired, like secretly.
Right.
So
Yes.
almost 20 years of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah.
And just to go over a brief overview of where we are in the history of the show. So this episode aired on October 26, 2003. It is the Halloween episode for this season. We are now like in the Aqua Teen boom. Like it was the breakout hit of those first 4 shows, correct?
Yes,
Home Movies,
yeah.
Harvey Birdman, The Brack Show, and this.
Oh, and C-Lab 2021.
Oh, and C-Lab, yeah.
There's 5 of them, yeah. And if you want to count Cowboy Bebop, sure. But yes, if the originals produced for it, it was definitely the breakout. Like C-Lab, I'd say would be second. I think when you look back on it, you could see that they thought Brack Show would definitely be the big one.
Oh, for sure. And I have a real soft spot for the Brack Show, even though it's not as mean. Maybe that's why people didn't like it as much. It was just like too good-natured and kind-hearted. Yeah.
Well, and Aqua Teen, even more than C-Lab, so got into the like stoner vibe that this was for. Like it is the stoneriest of the shows for sure. And and I always loved the Aqua Teen, Halloween nights on Adult Swim because they get every Halloween episode they done. Like I think they make sure that every series does one Halloween episode and one Christmas episode so they can do theme nights like this. But I always loved their Halloween like marathons of just all the episodes. It felt special. One of those things in live broadcasting you can only get.
Yeah, just a night of programming that you don't decide on. It's just like I'll just leave on the TV, and it's weird to be nostalgic for these things. But yeah, like so we're in the boom of Aqua Teen. The first quote unquote season was basically 4 episodes and a pilot.
Wow.
So we talked about the history. They didn't trust this at all. They're just like, well, you guys have Space Ghost cred, so go ahead and make this weird idea that you kind of lied to us to make by saying they're detectives.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then it was like Space Ghost was also supposed to get a revival in Adult Swim, so they probably were thinking like, no, you guys need to be running Space Ghost. You're not going to do this like dumb milkshake show.
And this became bigger than any Space Ghost ever. So
yeah.
From September until April, there were 5 episodes. And then April to December, they picked up 13 more to air. So like immediately from the beginning when it was a hit, they made more. And then, so that was like an 18 episode order total.
Yeah.
So season 2 is the biggest season of this show, 24 episodes of the season. And I think that's why the final episode of season 2 is called The Last One, because they're like, we're just 2 guys. We didn't think we'd be making this many of these things.
Yeah, you're right. That going from 13 to 24 shows the huge success of the show, that Adult Swim was like, give us every single episode you possibly can. And they made each new episode feel like a total event, too.
So, yeah, we talked about the Venture Brothers earlier, and I don't want to turn this into a Venture Brothers podcast, but that show in the interim between these 2 Aqua Teen podcasts was canceled, and that really brings to an end this era of Adult Swim. It's finally over. Like, the pilot for Venture Brothers was not like a first-year Adult Swim one. It aired in 2003. The series proper didn't air until 2004, but 2003 is when this is airing, too. So the end of that era of Adult Swim is now over completely, or maybe it ended 2 years ago when the last Venture Brothers aired.
Yeah, we didn't know. We didn't know, but it was the end. Yeah, I think Venture Brothers was the only thing keeping us in that place, and even then, Venture Brothers was like the premium of the shows then. And yeah, I think from reading that book, it got okayed in like 2002, so it was like the first or second run of pilots because Aqua Teen had turned out to be so successful. They're like, all right, let's order a couple pilots, 30 minutes even. Let's go for
We're going to order the Groovians, Saddle Rash, and Welcome to Eltingville, and Metro Brothers.
Eltingville deserved to happen. That was good. And especially because I want Evan Dorkin to have money. Though then again, from what we've talked about with the people who worked on Aqua Teen, maybe you don't get money. Maybe you wouldn't have money. Same with and C. Martin Croker too. Another the late C. Martin Croker, another person like fucked over by this. It does kind of hurt watching him whenever I hear his voice or see a really good piece of animation in it, way better than the show deserves. I go like, oh, that's poor C. Martin Croker. He got it was his blood, sweat, and tears and early grave that bought this kind of stuff.
He was so mistreated. There's a very sweet interview on that Adult Swim podcast also with Andy Merrill, the voice of Brack and a writer on Space Ghost. He's a very sweet man. He's actually breaking out the Brack puppet to do like Trump stuff on Twitter now. It's really great.
Damn, I gotta look this up.
But he talks a lot about the early days of Cartoon Network transitioning to Adult Swim, and how in the early days of Space Ghost he was actually religious, so he didn't want to make fun of the Pope. He was worried about making fun of the Pope.
Oh, a good Georgia Christian boy.
It's true.
That's cute.
But yeah, this is the Aqua Teen boom, which I believe I want to say it ended with the movie in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
But before
that was the too far.
I sat in the theater and I couldn't believe I was watching that entire thing, and it was all on the screen, and it was the animation quality was the same. Mm-hmm. They didn't change that at all. But Henry, you're a big fan of the guest on this episode, not using his real name, correct? Tom Sharpling.
Yes, yeah, Tom Sharpling. I wanted to give a little respect to him in this because he is so great. And honestly, as podcasters, we unknowingly owe quite a lot to Tom Sharpling. And because he's an incredible writer and performer. In his own right, he hosted the best show on the indie radio show WFMU. By the time this aired, it was already very established. Like he joked that he'd been doing it since the end of the Clinton administration, and he was still at it.
I know you have like a giant WFMU book or box or something.
Yeah,
that giant book right there.
It's that
right?
white stripe. Yeah, it's that white. Well, it's a fake. Well, it is a book, but also a thing that holds records.
I was going to ask, what is in that?
It's every best show clip in it. Like it's really. I love the best show. It's so funny. And he would do like 3-hour thing a week with sometimes talking to guests, but also he would prepare and write things with John Wurster. Their big hit virally, especially for bands, was Rock, Rot, and Rule, because John Wurster is a very talented drummer in a lot of major bands. Like he does drumming for Bob Mould and the Mountain Goats, and there's one other band, whatever. Anyway, he's great. And so I think that got Rock, Rot, and Rule passed around, and I think Dave Willis and Matt Malero, through their connections to like the Atlanta indie music scene, they heard it. And they just became big fans of Sharpling. Like Dave Willis has been a great call-in guest many times on the Best Show,
and Matt Malero is like a mega music nerd too.
Yes, yeah, annoyingly so. It's one of those things. Like God, you're like Otto from The Simpsons. You're just too into these things. He
made 12-Ounce Mouse, and there's like a lot of guitar solos in that take up a lot of time.
That's a funny, one of those commentaries on that box set. It's just, hey, I have a guitar plugged in, but they have to be careful. They can't play any recognizable licks for anything. But yeah, Sharpling, when he did this, he was already bros with Dave Willis. They still are friends. He wrote, he's a son of New Jersey, the setting of the show. He was a writer for Monk right after this. It was one of the few shows he wanted to get in television writing but stay in New Jersey, and Monk was one of the very few shows that was actually just produced in New Jersey back then.
Was it he or Tom Sharpling that had a Comedy Central pilot with Paul F. Tompkins? I think it was Sharpling, right?
Sharpling, yeah. That's complicated.
Yes, I know.
The two of them had a real falling out after that, sadly.
I want to side with Tompkins. He seems so sweet.
He does,
and
right?
Sharpling seems like a real grump.
But people, I don't know, it seems like a professional divorce. They just didn't get along well. I think Sharpling, boy, it's hard to pick who would be harder to work with. I don't know, but they both, let's just say they both just had a bad day that day, and they're both great guys, and we love them both.
We'd love to have them on the show.
Yeah, either one of them. I mean, I've never interviewed Paul F. Tompkins. I have interviewed Tom Sharpling, and he was very nice. A light grouch to me.
I've heard clips of you on the show, Henry, of you being made fun of.
So that's a character on the show.
Yeah.
He's amping up, or let's say letting loose how angry he is at the world.
Well,
but in person, he was very nice to me.
I know I've mentioned this before, but I actually have a clip of him being mean to me on the radio 12 years ago. So in November of 2008, let's see, John Hodgman was on the show.
Okay,
and I was calling in to talk about, like, I need advice for my comedy career. It's stalling out. I'm in grad school. I don't like it. Where do I go from here? And they were just razzing me. They're telling me I sounded Canadian. John Hodgman was, very nice, but Sharpling was obviously, trying to razz me a bit. And I have a clip of the end of that segment. So we're going to hear this. It's on my YouTube account. Don't go to it. But I have, a little clip of the end of my 6-minute call-in segment that felt like 3 hours when I was on the line.
You should enjoy
how many years of lump taking should I invest in?
Until it happens.
Yeah, you
don't know. You don't decide.
Yeah, you don't get to tell them when you're done. They tell you when they're done. And by them, I mean the fates. You just get beat up, and then whoever's left standing maybe gets something thrown their way.
Okay.
I mean, you can get any sort of job.
Right.
And you can do the greatest comedy of your life for $0, and it will be fun. That's my recommendation.
War.
Well, it is fulfilling. You
got to realize it's war.
Yeah.
What?
What John Hodgman has should be yours. That's how you have to approach it. I want you to go.
Destroy anyone in my path.
This is what I want you to do. You go get his new book. Right on the cover, there's a picture of him. Cut that out.
Am I doing what Milton Berle was doing? Am I doing what Milton Berle was doing?
No, this is.
Am I giving this guy a bum?
No.
Bum line of advice. I'm telling him to go out there and tell fax jokes so that he fails, so that I can continue to live.
But
is that what's happening?
No, but you're on the other.
What's happening.
But you're through the door. This guy hates you because you're through the door.
I understand.
You got through the door, and
I
he
have
should
one more
hate
question
you
for
for
John.
Yeah.
Can I rip you off and be the Canadian John Hodgman?
Yes.
From Ohio.
That's my path to success.
From
now.
Ohio, because that's
So that was me 12 years ago, being very sad and desperate, saying, how do I get famous? Please tell me. And now I'm a successful podcaster. And John Hodgman, I have not taken him down yet.
I guess we did have to take our lumps, didn't we? That's
too many.
Yeah.
I hate that that's right. I can't stand that that's actually right.
Well, Tom Sharpling knows about lump taking, so that's wow. That's that was very gutsy of you to share that, Bob.
Yes, I was very embarrassed while that was playing.
I feel like this now. I have to pull up one of my call-ins as well. But I had called in to talk to John Hodgman too, and they hung up on me as I was trying to talk to him. I was just asking him when was he going to come to the SF Sketchfest the next year. But that was the night. But the other time I called in. I can't find it right now. I don't know if it's still online, but it was right after he'd come back. Tom had done New York Comic Con in 2016 or 2015, and I'd interviewed 16, and I interviewed him in person. And then I called in to be like, "Oh, it's really cool to interview you in person," and I made sure to promote the best show in the article I wrote so many times. And then he asked like, "Oh, and what's the name of the website where that is?" And then I demurred and was like, "Oh, I don't want to promote it. I didn't call it to self-promote." And he goes, "Well, you did everything else for this call." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he hung up on me.
I think you have way more experience being hung up on than I did.
Yeah, I think I pissed him off more with my existence. But yeah, and then so Tom Sharpling, he wrote for Monk. His relationship to Adult Swim extended to him and that Worcester, John Worcester, writing for Tom Goes to the Mayor and Tim and Eric.
Right.
So he's real close with Tim Heidecker. He's out on Heidecker and Greg Turkington in character for On Cinema several times. And then in 2013, Best Show superfan Rebecca Sugar would cast him as Greg Universe on Steven Universe.
And that's what all the youths know him as.
Yes, yeah.
By that I mean anyone under 30.
It took a real turn on the show. It kind of actually led me to listen less, at least to all of the call-ins. Like I would skip some of the call-ins because once the show got so big, like 10-year-olds would keep calling in to be like, "Hey, mister," and of course he's got to be nice to them. It softened him too much too, because I feel like 2003 Tom Sharpling, if a 10-year-old called in, he might hang up on him, but he's just too nice to the little kids now, which is good. He shouldn't like scar some kid or whatever. But and also in 2014, Tom Sharpling with Adult Swim, he actually produced a pilot for them as well, one of their infomercials.
Oh, those are all great, and I wish they were on like HBO Max or something. I don't know where to find those.
Yeah.
I just had to like download them all legally because they're all just like named weird things you don't know what they are. But that whole series is amazing.
For a time, they'd keep some on their YouTube channel. I mean, they'll never delist Too Many Cooks because that probably still gets them like 1 million views a month. But the Tom Sharpling one is called "We're Newbridge and We're Coming to Get Ya."
Right. So based on the WFMU universe?
Yes, yeah. Over the years, the Best Show with Worcester grew the fictional town of Newbridge so much history that it was like its own Springfield, basically. And I wish it had turned into more things, but especially if you watched a ton of Best Show, or listened to a ton of Best Show, you get to see all of these characters and references all clammed together into one, basically parody of those tourism board ads for like, hey, here's all the cool things here.
So like an extended version of the Tom Goes to the Mayor opening?
Yeah. Actually, the best gag in it is that they established, which I don't think had ever been said on the on Best Show before, is that Newbridge was the home place, the birthplace of the pebbled trash can, which that's such a great, weird, specific.
I've seen so many of those in my lifetime.
And last bit I'll say about Sharpling, him and Worcester, they are also bros with Simpsons writers, and in 2016, the season 27 episode, The Margian Chronicles, Sharpling and Worcester appear in that episode as guests, basically as themselves.
I like that the guests are so obscure on The Simpsons now. Like Tim and Eric, they're not obscure in any way, but they would not be on The Simpsons in like the first 10 seasons.
No way. Yeah, that would be like in the first 5 seasons of Simpsons if they'd had on like, I feel like even Gilbert Godfrey, they'd be like, that's a little too...
Like Kevin Smith or something.
Yeah, Kevin Smith. Yeah, that feels a little different than how Al Jean said for the movie, like, we'd only reference Titanic or a thing everyone's heard
Tom
of.
Hanks.
Yeah, exactly.
We all know who that is. So before we go on to our break here, I was like, what else can I do with this intro segment? And then I remembered that, so we... thanks to quarantine, we're recording a lot of these months in advance. This time, we're only recording a few weeks in advance.
Yeah.
And what's the news? Our big wet president has a boo-boo in his lungs. He just got the COVID, and as of this recording, he could be lumbering out of the hospital at any moment. I will not record a new intro if he dies. I swear.
No.
This will just be frozen in time. But I was thinking there was a very funny tweet, and people were doing this a lot, where 3 years ago, like they were like, oh, you know what? Donald Trump sounds a lot like Master Shake. So I wanted to find the original tweet, and it turns out to be a Deadspin tweet where they slowed down Trump's audio and had him basically synced up to Master Shake talking. And it's very, very funny. I think it works without the visual, but if you ever get depressed by the president, I recommend that you find a way to slow down his audio to half speed and pitch his voice up, and he sounds exactly like Master Shake. But this has been in my brain all day, and I'll play this clip. It's from an old Deadspin tweet.
Two guys just really beautiful tackle. Boom, 15 yards. The referee gets on television. His wife is sitting at home. She's so proud of him. They're ruining the game. Right? They're ruining the game.
I love the ruining the game.
That's I mean, that is such a Snydery delivery of like, they're ruining the game. They're ruining the game.
Like Trump is an older Master Shake.
He is.
Shake was like the president, and I see no differences between these two men.
I mean, Master Shake is a incredibly entitled, pure, selfish, violent, like evil monster.
And easily distracted.
Easily distracted. Yeah, he's so stupid. Yeah, that's the important balance of Shake, and that Shake constantly does things that are against his best interest, but it's because he has no patience and wants something right now.
And we just saw a huge example of that, so I
Yes,
couldn't help but think of that, and that they're ruining the game. Folks, the game.
Prayers up. Prayers up.
Prayers
for
up.
this. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll let you think about that, and we'll go to our break. When we come back, we'll talk all about the shaving.
I'm an igloo or a hot dog. I'm straight. What? I got the beat. You mess with me, you get concrete feet. I got jacked by the cops and shot potato tots. Busted the moon and ice was taking more rounds. Let my nose. Right a corner for just mine. Spraying booties with my ice cream straw. Treat my hoes like a cop fan club. Got a meat wide watch and a lemonade shake. The fries go with that. Here comes the jump break. Aqua Teen won't never be canceled. Aqua Teen won't be dismantled. Aqua Teen gonna be together. Aqua Teen gonna be forever. Oh no, you didn't. Check it out. I'm gonna take this ramp at a C note. Then I'll execute a mid-air yogi through that ring of flames. Swamp donkey over that pit of sharks into the mouth of that Burmese anaconda.
I highly doubt it.
Watch and learn, boy.
I mean, I could do that.
Oh, really? Do it then, tough guy.
Fine by me. Hand me my beef wine, cause I'm about to get busy. Damn engine's flagging. Plus I got poison ivy and I'm not even supposed to be out in snow without my mittens. Even the wind's not right. You know what? Today's not the day. Let's break it all down. I'll do it tomorrow.
You get ice cream if you do it.
Tastes good.
Give me that Slim Jim, son. I did it! Plus I landed right on my face, which is way harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the break for the What a Cartoon episode all about Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I am one of your hosts, Bob Mackey, and I am 30 or 40 years old, and I do not need this. And who do we have here as well? Who's always here?
Yeah, hey, it's Henry, and I'm just eating some wonderful carrot sticks for candy now because I have been on a diet this whole year.
Healthy and fun, and orange is a Halloween color. So everybody out there, if you want to support all of our shows and get some episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up for $5 a month. You'll get just that, but also everything that lurks spookily behind the $5 paywall. Ooh. That includes all of our limited miniseries. To date, those have been Talking to the Hill, Talking Critic, Talking Mission Hill, and Talking Futurama. And very soon, Talking Futurama Season 2 Part 2 will be rolling out for you throughout the entire rest of 2020. 9 new episodes of Talking Futurama coming at you if you're on the $5 tier of the Patreon. We also have things like interviews with Simpsons All-Stars, end of season wrap-ups, and deleted scene specials for Talking Simpsons behind the $5 paywall. But if you sign up for the $10 level at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, you'll get all the $5 stuff, of course, but also access to one mega-long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
Bob, you're talking about the What a Cartoon movie. If you enjoy this What a Cartoon podcast weekly, you would definitely love our What a Cartoon movie podcast for $10 and up subscribers. On top of all that $5 stuff, you get to hear us cover a different animated feature film once a month, often for up to 4 hours. Our one this month is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, 3 hours and 40 minutes long. We've already recorded it, and you are going to enjoy it so much. We have so much fun goofing on the, or not really even goofing, enjoying the self-referential goofing on Scooby-Doo stuff in Zombie Island. It's so much fun. It's your second dose of Scoob this month. You'll get to hear the preview of it in a couple weeks on the free feed, but if you want to hear the full thing, you also get an entire back catalog of podcasts when you sign up for $10 a month. That is over 2 years now of exclusive movie podcasts about things as diverse as A Goofy Movie, Beavis and Butthead Do America, Tiny Toons How I Spent My Vacation, Iron Giant, Kiki's Delivery Service Akira, and so many more. And you're going to want to hear it all, so please sign up at the $10 level to get it all. at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And if you've never signed up for Patreon before, it's so easy to do. And once you do sign up, you are given access to a code that you can check out at any time. You just drop that code into whatever you use to listen to podcasts. And that way you can download our bonus podcast alongside all the free podcasts you listen to as part of your podcasting lifestyle. And there's also a great app that Patreon has for any smart device, and you can listen to our bonus content that way as well. Either way you do it is so easy to access all the bonus content waiting for you at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. That's it for this break. Now get ready to meet Willie Nelson and learn all about the shaving.
I want candy, bubblegum and taffy. Skip to the sweet shop with my sweetheart Sandy. Got my penny safe, so I'm a sugar daddy. I'm a Hugh Cronin, she my Jessica Tandy. I want candy. Put it in a pile, split it with my bitty, 50-50 down the line. Kinda like close encounters of the cavity kind. I'm talking licorice, kisses, talking crocodile smiles. I want candy.
So we're back to talk about the shaving, and one thing that's changed since our first look at the series is that it's all on HBO Max. We mentioned it earlier, except there's a controversy, much like the Stark Raving Dad episode. There's one episode you won't find on streaming. And Henry, what's going on with that?
Well, that is the episode Shake Like Me, which was from the very in style in the 2000s of ironic racism, ironic blackface.
Yes, and that was the era in which they had a show called Minora Team.
Yes.
And Dana Snyder played an Asian man using the accent you probably would assume he would use.
That's right. I forgot that happened.
Yeah. We brushed that under the rug, that whole series.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like, well, look, it was the past. You want to just say, even though the thing back then was, so the episode Shake Like Me is the one where Shake turns into, he has stereotypical African American features on his face and straw, and in the episode it's about how disgusted everyone is with him and how insensitive his is, but years later when it's time to put it on streaming, there is a rash of this going around of like, no, your ironic blackface episode is now just a blackface episode, and we're not going to put it on TV.
Weren't there like a wave of blackface episodes obliterated, like Golden Girls or something had one or something crazy like that?
Yeah, so more than one episode of 30 Rock it happened to. They did it more than once. We of course know the Sarah Silverman program and also the Man Show, but the Man Show is not being shown anywhere for a lot of reasons.
No.
But the Golden Girls one is one of the bigger examples. Oh, Community too. Like
right
in both of those, in the episode of Community, which was their Advanced Dungeons and Dragons episode, the joke is that Chang, Ken Jeong's character, appears in like onyx black skin coloring and other prosthetics on his face to say he is a dark elf, which have been removed from the game anyway. And the joke is how it's making the black people in the room uncomfortable, but still right now that episode isn't streaming anywhere. And then in addition to that, there was an old episode of the Golden Girls, which I actually just watched recently, and it's a pretty funny episode where it's about Blanche's son is dating a woman, and everyone's worried that the son is worried that Blanche isn't going to like her because she's black, or it might be uncomfortable. But the woman is actually like 20 years older than him. Like he's in his 20s, she's in his 40s, she's in her 40s, and that's what makes her uncomfortable. And then the B plot is that Rose and the other lady, they're doing all these beauty tips and beauty things to look younger. One is a mud mask.
Yeah.
And when the black woman arrives, they come in like, hey, who's here? And they have their mud masks on, and but in a screenshot it looks different. So
that's more innocent than I mean, they all mean well in quotes, but that seems more innocent than making the episode with Master Shake getting surgery
That's more, I mean, the Golden Girls one, I think, goes more into the Three's Company kind of classic sitcom mistake things instead of
it's a farce.
Yeah, while the Sarah Silverman program, for example, arched it of like, no, she literally puts blackface on her face. Like, or the state, not the state. Stella did that as well in the show. But, look, again, style at the time in the 2000s.
There was a real revival of blackface in the 2000s.
I guess it was one of those, like, we think we're post-racial things, so we can joke about this, but now it just feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, like...
and those were the feelings I had in the 2000s. As a privileged white boy, I should have... I think we all should have thought more about, like, hey, how uncomfortable does this make people who aren't like you?
I guess maybe you could enjoy that episode in the context of, like, Shake being a bad character and people not liking him.
Well,
but then...
And also that we know, if you're a listener, you know Frylock's actor is an African-American man, too, so... Through Frylock, especially his disgust at it, you get some laughs out of that situation.
But if you just post that image of Shake as a reply on Twitter, you're just racist. You're just making a racist joke. So, things that use out of context could be very, very bad.
So you won't be watching that one on HBO Max.
But this one,
yes,
it all begins, of course, with the classic Dr. Weird and Steve opening before they ran out of these ideas and they became Space Kataz, a dissected pilot.
Not every Dr. Weird is great, but I do like this one.
Yes. So Dr. Weird is doting on this spider, and we hear Steve screaming in the background. And Dr. Weird says, "Where's your brother?" And it jumps out. The eyeball jumps out of Steve's skull. So you see Dr. Weird has turned Steve's eyeballs into spider creatures.
Yeah. And then he tells him, "Shut the fuck up, Steve. You're scaring him."
And I will say, I said it before, but bleeped swear words are funnier than not bleep swear words.
Oh, yeah.
I love the bleep.
I just watched season 7 of Venture Brothers, and it was all unbleeped. It's actually it's uncensored on Hulu, and I gotta say it's less funny to hear Monarch say "fuck you" or whatever.
I guess it depends on when you grew up, because if you grew up with bleeping, then it's like, oh, that's naughty and they're covering up a naughty thing, but it just doesn't feel as special as when it's not bleeped.
I guess if, say, I were to hear Homer Simpson in something say "fuck you," I'd be like, oh, wow, I'd never heard that before. But eventually it just gets kind of old to you. And then hearing a bleep for a word you know what it is, it feels funnier to me. But also those spider eyes, that's where right from the beginning it hit me watching. I have a new 4K TV. Let me just brag.
Yes.
But
I've had one for 4 years.
And seeing HBO Max on that TV and watching this episode of Aqua Teen, I could just see every flaw and every artifacting in such stark relief.
It's actually kind of adorable, because you could tell like what resolution they were working at with these assets. The backgrounds are like a lower resolution than the characters themselves. So you see like little stair-steppy effects on objects and things like that, and like fuzzy quote unquote textures. I do like that as just an artifact of when the show was made and what materials they were working with.
In a way, it's like you're watching a puppet show done on Photoshop.
Exactly.
And there is a warmth of nostalgia to even that, just the working in that medium, because now digital implements are just so well done, and you recognize, or they're implemented so well that you're not like, it's not shoved in your face that this is just a JPEG that somebody downloaded and moved around.
I do love the illusion, or like the challenge of how do we make stories using these very limited assets? Like there are only so many canned animations for the characters. Like, occasionally they'll make a new one, if there's like a very special event happening, like you need to see Frylock's drool or something.
Yeah, or they'd want and that's why too they'd have only one character show up an episode. If you could have one new person, you could get away with it. And even then, I think I would bet the animators, the poor animators on this, and I mean that in many ways, the word poor. Yeah. But I think they were probably happy when there are episodes of like, what if it's just the a cube, just like a four-sided colored cube, and it doesn't have a mouth.
Or like a blob that we draw a face on.
Yeah.
I was actually
Old trippy.
just watching the Carl's commencement speech for 2020 graduates, and I was watching it like 20 years after these animations are made, just like astonished. Like these drawings of Carl are 2 decades old. Him like moving his hands like this,
up and down hand thing, yeah,
and like raising his eyebrows and stuff. Like this is actually very charming. I like it's like a 20-year-old puppet. You're right,
Yeah.
a Photoshop puppet.
It feels, and it's just an extension of what they learned to do on Space Ghost. On Space Ghost, they digitized shots of Space Ghost from multiple old cartoons. Here they at least made the cartoons first, but in either case, it's like on Space Ghost, how many times I had to see the same put his hand up to the wrist thing and then put it back down.
And no one could like walk around on Space Ghost. It helps that these characters in this show don't have feet, so they just can slide around the screen.
You're right. It's pretty great how they thought of 3 different ways people could not have feet, and then meanwhile they just have to hide it through cuts of like Carl going anywhere. Or I think by like the 40th episode they maybe drew a walk cycle for Carl.
He has a very limited walk cycle, but yeah, until then Carl just teleports. But so yeah, we're at their house, the Aqua Teen Hunger Force's house, and they're getting ready for Halloween in our first clip.
This Halloween, you won't like me when I'm angry.
I don't like you ever. Now just hold still. You're about to be both Hall and Oates.
People ain't gonna get that.
Yeah, you're right. 2 inside. And we go get the blender. You can go as the Boston Philharmonic.
I ain't gonna be no Boogerstein Orchestra. I'm the Incredible Plum.
No, you're not. Now get in there.
All right, you know best. But just so we're clear, boy, don't make me angry.
Shut up. Just let the food ninja do the work.
Shake, unplug that.
Oh, great. Look who just ruined Halloween. You know you like the A-bomb. Everybody's laughing, have a good time. Then you show up, boom, everything's dead.
Come on out of there, Meatwad. You're gonna be the Bachelor.
All right. But I can still be the Plum, too, right?
No.
You better not say I can't.
No,
I get angry.
no,
Well, of course
no,
you can,
no.
Shake. The Plum was a bachelor too, Meatwad.
Yeah. He was so angry he didn't understand the compromises you gotta go through building a lasting relationship. He didn't like throw a car at a woman.
Plus, his genitals were purple.
I should mention that this is like a 10-minute cartoon, and I have 8 minutes of clips because why not?
I mean, it's all dialogue. Well, not all dialogue based. There are some funny visuals in here, but it's so much dialogue. I also note in the opening, to let you know it's the Halloween episode, we hear a wolf howl at the
That's
moon
right.
after the credits are done. Yeah.
In the establishing shot of the house, you get like some nice Scooby-Doo bats.
Oh yeah,
across the
yeah.
screen.
Could be taken directly from a Scooby-Doo cartoon, even. And to let you know that this episode was written by Gen Xers, you get a reference to the Bill Bixby Hulk
And Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
But the kids wouldn't get the young millennials wouldn't get that joke. The kids just in college at this time.
I like Shake saying it's 2 inside. That's a danger of Halloween costumes. You can't be 2 inside with them, which I feel like they're especially making fun of with Frylock's costume.
Well, we're all going to be inside this year for Halloween.
I guess that's funny.
It
Yeah.
won't matter.
Every Halloween outfit will be 2 inside.
That's
because
right.
you'll be 2 inside your apartment.
You could be double inside. Explain your costume via Zoom call. Oh yeah, but Frylock, the ultimate nerd, because he has to like explain his Halloween costume and has lore behind it.
Yeah, any costume you got to explain is a waste of time. Or you're just doing it to please yourself. Which, look, I did that with many costumes. When I do it,
I'm so clever.
Or on that show that we've done, a What a Cartoon, 2 What a Cartoons about. No, just one. Craig of the Creek. They just did a Halloween special, and there's a great gag of Craig dresses as their equivalent of Sonic the Hedgehog. They made up a Sonic the Hedgehog thing, but everywhere he goes, nobody knows what it is, and they're like, "Are you like a rabbit or something?"
That reminds me, like the last year I dressed up was 2009 for Halloween, and I was Dale Gribble, and I went out to a bar full of people. Only one person recognized me. This is like the height of that show re-airing on Adult Swim too.
Oh man,
I just look like a regular dirtbag with sunglasses on and a hat in a bar. But I bought a hat online. I had no job, but I bought Dale's hat online.
You know what? I think now the rule for Halloween costumes should just be, just so people at least get it on a base level, men and women need to be, you either pick Joker or you pick Harley Quinn, and then you put a costume on top of that.
That's true.
You're just like, well, I'm the Joker if he was this person. So at the very least, people get like, oh, you're the Joker. All right, got
And then you could post those Facebook memes about how you're like the Joker and your girlfriend's like Harley Quinn. I'm crazy and she's a bitch.
Oh God, I'm so glad they're not together anymore in continuity, and it's like
that's great.
Harley and Poison Ivy, a happy couple of villains who are gay. That's much nicer.
Speaking of gay, this is when Shake is.
What a gay episode this is.
Well, yeah, gay bashing,
yes,
because Shake is insisting that Frylock put on his ballerina shoes and get the rest of the outfit and be who he really is.
Yeah, that's pretty hateful. I mean, but it fits with the character of Shake that he would call somebody gay in a negative way. I mean, it also, though, is the style at the time. It's dudes. Even I would think the writers on the show would think of themselves as like, hey, we're liberal dudes. I'm not against gay people. But there still is a little bit about a joke of, isn't it weird to be gay? A man who'd have sex with a man. Isn't that kind of
gay
weird?
people wear women's clothing.
Yes, yeah. And same with like, it's one of those rainbow flags. Man, like,
this is the razzing of the era. Again, this actually does make 17 years old feel like a long time ago.
Yeah,
when it seems like it wasn't long ago, but you're like, wow, like all of this just very casual homophobia.
Yeah, it's how do you insult your dude friend? Well, an easy way is just to say they are a homosexual. Maybe you're all homosexuals too, huh?
Boo. So yes, then we get the appearance of Willie Nelson finally.
Oh, good one, Frylock. Which crappy book is this one from? Onion of Arabia?
Yeah, onion.
Well, hey, look at this. Our first trick-or-treater.
Well, I thought he was you.
No. See, I'm the haunted sailor
We
from
know. We heard where you're from, and it sucks.
I don't think you understand, man. I live here.
Okay, I get it. You're insane, creature guy.
No, this isn't a costume. I live in the attic. I'm a monster.
Oh, no. Frylock, get the axe.
So
no.
do you have any mail for me? Willie Nelson?
Willie Nelson.
Well, not the Willie Nelson, but my name is Willie Nelson.
Wait a minute. I think we might have time to order an axe from a website. Will we make
That is weird. Well, come to think of it, we do occasionally get mail for Willie Nelson. I used to forward it, but now I just throw it out.
Oh.
Sorry.
Good, thanks. Oh, this isn't mine. I think I'll throw it out.
Hey! That was my window to the world!
Well, now it's been shattered by the monster. Pretty scary, right?
That was the TV, and it was the same explosion we see all the time.
Yeah, oh, God, they joke on it on the commentary about how every flame is the same, like one campfire they made for Space Ghost, and they just play around with it on different levels. And same deal here, like they just have one explosion. Why animate another one? It's funnier just to see it over and over. Until you pointed it out, I think I never noticed in the crosstalk of him saying, I know what I said, meat wad. And then after that, he says a slur.
Yes. I'm not blank like you, I think is what he says.
Yeah. But in that crosstalk, I never caught it. Like, I guess I didn't want to hear it, perhaps. Until this time, I was like, oh, yeah, he just says it. Like, that sucks. But... and there's a really good gag, too, that when Frylock leaves and says he's going to eat the candy, and then he comes back in with a bowl of carrot sticks. I really love that.
I caught that this time. There's only so many ways to accurately render carrot sticks at that small of a resolution.
Yeah, it almost looks like they took a bloomin' onion and painted it orange.
Or like a bunch of square Cheetos or something.
Yeah. It doesn't read too well, but I think they did the best they could with those props. Also, the shaving stuff, I do think in the dialogue they say multiple times, I think it really was supposed to be, they envisioned a straight razor when they wrote the text, and then when the animators did it, they made it an electric razor. I feel pretty sure of that.
I think the electric razor is funnier because it's such like an impotent buzz of a motor.
Yeah, and it's less scary. Like if somebody holds up a, like Sweeney Todd straight razor, it is menacing. You could actually be scared that it could cut you.
Well, I think he mentions like multiple blades later, so I think it's one of those like safety razors with like the 3 blades and like the lubricated strip.
But I guess even on that, comparatively, a electric shaver is even less dangerous, which is what I prefer, but I'm also not the cleanest shaven man.
The Army sent me a nice razor for promising I'd die in war.
Oh, the creepy
Selective
shit,
service.
Man. I hate that.
I'm too old for it now. Dad, blast it.
What do those kids get sent now? I wonder. Other than just to a Twitch channel,
they get like a Fortnite skin for signing up.
Oh God! But yeah, there's old Willie Nelson. I love him so much.
He's just an onion with spider legs, and he's got these weary eyes to him. He's just like world weary.
Yeah, he especially when he's like shocked, like, whoa, hey, where's that coming from? Whenever he says that, his eyes get extra sad. Like he can be kind of angry, but I much prefer his like kind of heartful look in his eyes.
Yeah, it helps the curveball at the end really pay off.
Yeah, and I think often of the not just the line, well, not the Willie Nelson, but also the line of throwing away the mail for a previous resident. Like I threw it away eventually with when I've stayed in places, and I always think back to like, what would Willie Nelson think of me?
I just did it today, but I'm living in my apartment for like 7 years now. Just like this Blevins person needs to get her act together.
I get one from somebody who used to go to University of Michigan, and I get their thing all the time. I actually was on the opposite end of that. I was the Willie Nelson at my old place, like 3 blocks from here. And it kept stuff still got sent there, and I just gave up on it. But then I was walking around with a bag from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Like I got a tote bag for giving money to them. I give to charity. I'm pretty great. But so it's important to the story that I say that, because then a dude walks by me and sees I have that tote bag. And he's like, wait, are you Henry Gilbert? I was like, what? Yeah. He's like, I moved into your old place, and I remembered you actually got like flyers from them in the mail because I used to work for them, so I noticed it.
Holy shit.
And he's like, I've been saving some of your mail. Do you want it? I was like, sure. And so I went back with him to my old place, and he gave me the mail.
So there's got to be like 11 places that are getting my mail right now.
Yeah,
my old junk mail.
Let them enjoy Doctors Without Borders asking for more money. I'll send it in the email if I feel like it.
We were talking about how Shake is like Trump and that he gets distracted. So that last word was pretty scary, right? The last line of dialogue. And he goes, what's the word that's the opposite of scary? And Meatwad says tacos. And then he goes immediately to find tacos. Like, no, they're mine. They're my tacos. Mine.
I
you
love
just hear
that.
crashing in the background.
God, just hearing the word tacos makes him destroy his kitchen. And yeah, that he's also just like, what, tacos? I made them. They're mine. Like,
yeah, I made them. I forgot about that part of the joke.
When Shake would never make food in his entire life for anyone. But I love that Willie, even his anger, even when he has a reason to be angry, he's just like, oh yeah, hey, well, this isn't mine. Guess I'll throw it out. Pretty scary.
It's great, like passive aggression on Willie Nelson's part.
He's more of a dork in that way.
He explains the scaring will resume when he gets back to the attic, and then he tells his story that he was driven to the attic by villagers for doing 30 and a 25. And actually, it was more like this one guy. I didn't really know him. I mean, I knew him, but we weren't like buds or anything.
I love that. God, if we're like buds or anything.
He's constantly downplaying the story throughout telling it.
His mythology just turns into nothing, and they're just like, yeah, okay.
So then we find out all about his razor.
What's up with the razor?
Oh, well, I shave. Once every couple days. It's nerve-wracking.
Huh.
Well, it's supposed to be.
Well, it's not.
You shave up here?
Well, we wouldn't hear it anyway. I mean, we actually do have pretty good insulation up there.
I know. It's sweltering. I mean, do you guys have a fan or something? I mean, I'm just going to borrow it. I'm not going to keep it.
You are the gayest monster since gay came to Gay Town.
Whoa, easy. Where's this coming from?
No, let's get down to it. What I say is very baffling.
Hey, whoa, you two. We don't want any trouble here now, okay?
No, I'm with you. I don't think violence solves anything.
God, you're gay. You don't think violence solves anything? What kind of monster are you?
Look, I'm pretty hardcore. I mean, I've been known to do a number on plenty of cats.
Do a number? Yeah, I bet you do a number. In your tights on Broadway, which is where you moved to after you left Texas Chainsaw Mascara, where you're from.
What's he talking about?
How much you want to bet me you couldn't scare Jack?
I like how angry he gets that his metaphors don't make any sense.
Yeah, what I say is very
baffling.
baffling. God, yeah. I mean, yes. Hey, as a gay man,
You're saying this is all okay, is what you're saying, right?
Stamp of approval for me for all LGBTQ people. No, but
he's a bad man, this Master Shake.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, his Shake is bad, and also I feel like, especially he is so effeminate. I feel like they are playing a little like overcompensating on his part, calling people gay and accusing anybody of being gay. I mean, this is hardly the first time he's called somebody gay either. Like he says about look how he's walking, he's got a swish to him or whatever. Or they also, there was some guy, they spread the news that there was like a Sasquatch type dude, and they said he was gay and spread rumors about it.
I don't know if you can make a character this openly homophobic in a show these days. I
don't think so.
You can make an awful character like Rick for Rick and Morty, but that's not part of the equation.
Yeah,
that kind of hatred.
They have to have some line about like, well, obviously I don't hate gay people, Morty. I'm not a Republican or whatever like that. You'd have to get some line there. I feel like homophobia. Well, hey, who knows where homophobia is going in the future?
It's got a bright future.
God, but yeah, I mean, Shake is supposed to be closed-minded, but a danger in these shows is that when you make your funniest, most charming character this closed-minded, the jokes aren't always on him, and sometimes I think people are like, yeah, I like this guy.
That's what I thought when I was watching Jojo Rabbit, the last movie I saw in a movie theater. I was like, it's weird that I'm like excited for Hitler to return again because he's just so funny.
Oh right, yes.
I'm just like, God, he's so funny. But then I was like, should I be thinking this about Hitler? And I think that movie walks the line because that character becomes not funny in his last appearance.
Oh yeah. That's don't isolate that thing Bob just said. Okay,
Hitler is funny.
I want Hitler to come back. I also that Texas Chainsaw Mascara. That's the line that I'm like, that's a joke that somebody said sucked in the writer's room, and you just kept it in.
So they go over to scare Carl. It doesn't really work because all he has is his electric razor, and Carl just like, I don't give a damn. Shuts the door.
Go away. Yeah, I mean, and all his lights are out anyway because clearly on Halloween he does not want to give candy to any person.
And they're not going to animate any children in the show. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's probably good they don't have that asset to mess with. With Carl too, I like that he goes from being like their kind of rude working class next door neighbor that very quickly he becomes like a crazy shut-in.
Yeah.
Who also does horrible things with women sometimes.
And he joins them on their adventures many a time.
Yes,
he's usually just the guy in the beginning who just gets like property damage, occurring on his residence, or they use his pool or whatever.
Yeah, he's just supposed to say like, you destroyed my car. But and then, Dave Willis, their connection, I forgot to mention that. The connection between him and Tom Sharpling extended even to Steven Universe, because when they introduced a brother for Greg Universe, Dave Willis did the voice with the Carl voice. That's who it was.
This show is so blessed in that anything that Dave Willis says as Carl is funny. Anything that Dana Sanders says as Shake is funny.
Yeah,
like immediately, they can read whatever line they want. It's just very funny.
And even Meatwad's pretty funny.
That too.
Yeah, I only in this listening this closely do I hear the squish they add to like every word he says, because his mouth is just a squishy pile of meat, like cavity opening up again.
Like anytime he's moving, there's the squish sound. But I see a clip that's floating around a lot lately on Twitter is Carl going, "This don't matter. None of this matters."
Oh, yes, yeah.
It's taken from a scene where he's marrying a Russian sex worker with Jake, and everything is just a big scam, including the last name and everything. So
none of this matters.
Yeah.
God, that is a favorite of mine. You shared a great one of somebody plugged that into the elevator scene from Evangelion. Yeah.
Yes, it's Carl in the elevator with Ray and Asuka, right? And it's done so perfect. It's so well done.
Yeah, at the very end of it, they all stand there quietly in the elevator until Carl at the very end says, "Doesn't matter. None of this matters." But yeah, Carl here, he gets pranked. He refuses to be pranked by Willie Nelson. He also doesn't remember him, which I like that too. Willie Nelson is still trying to get like mail from him and doesn't care.
The real threat is Carl calling the cops, and Frylock is, "He'll do it. I'm out of here."
I guess not long after this, they established that he got a restraining order or he wants to get a restraining order on them as well. But then Shake though shows him how to do an actual prank on Carl.
Only he can do it, and that's throwing meat wad at Carl.
Yeah.
He's just a disgusting ball of meat just dipped in purple dye.
Yeah, I love that he leaves purple everywhere because he's covered in it. Because again, he is a skinless wad of meat. But
I think in the next shot of them together in Carl's house, the rug is now purple. The whole carpet is now purple.
Yeah, the rug's purple, and he has a purple mark on his chest the whole time. Yeah, and also after Shake throws him, the excitedness of how he's running away laughing, and then he falls down, like he trips and falls. That's so great.
Just like how they're able to make a character like that run a cup, just like shaking back and forth.
And that great, I mean, it captures that feeling of like childhood excitement of like, oh, I just did something, and then you're so happy that even though you get so happy you trip and fall, you don't stop laughing. You're just like, I didn't even trip. I'm just getting back up and running some more.
So now it's time for more monster training.
Now remember, you have no regard for human life, most especially women, because they have the organs that you wish that you had. So you want to make a suit from them.
But I don't want to make a suit
Listen
from
to me,
them.
that's how it's done. All you concern yourself with is kill, kill, kill. You got it? None of the side crap, because it's throwing you off. And who's going to stop you anyway? You're immortal.
Are you sure? That doesn't sound
Please,
right.
and do me another favor. Lose the shaving. Monsters don't groom themselves. They're friggin' maniacs. Okay, now, whoa, what's this? It's John Q. Public. Hey, I'm just walking along the street, and suddenly a monster pops out and says...
What are you doing here?
Damn it! No! Will you read the sheet?
Oh. Nice head. I think I'll take it.
There we go. But a little more feeling, okay? I can't want it for you.
I just love how he's so frustrated with this monster, he's turned it into his personal project.
Yeah.
Like, you must kill someone tonight.
And then he becomes a belligerent film director. He's like, you remember, this is your character. And, like, he hands him the script, and... when he jumps into it, when he says, "What are you doing here?" he's reading someone else's line. And so that's why Shake is extra pissed. He's like, like he's so angry he has to take a second to just sigh. Like that's so great.
I really like the deadpan. Nice head. I think I'll take it. Yeah. Nice head. I think I'll take it.
And the chainsaws, like the sword earlier, they were props drawn for a previous episode that then they just reused.
Those are just hedge clippers.
Yeah. I remember seeing him in The Clowning. That was
right. He's like juggling them.
Yeah. He's I remember the great gag that Meatwad throws another chainsaw at Carl to see if he can do 4, and then clearly it hits Carl. He's like, ooh, and then closes the door.
There's a very funny gag, and it's not a gag you would do today, but it's Carl making a balloon shotgun to kill himself with.
That's right.
When he's infected with the clown virus,
because he can't speak anymore. He can only do honking, so he puts the gun to his head and goes honk honk to mean kill me.
Yes.
The clowning, man, that was a great
That's
episode.
a good one too.
Yeah.
It's just harder to do for this because it's a bunch of honking.
It's mostly just honking. Yeah. And it's not about Halloween, so
it's true, but there are monsters in it.
Yeah. And he's right about losing the shaving. Like, monsters are freaking maniacs. They would not be grooming themselves.
It's a very stupid gimmick. It should be more about the juice gimmick that he has later, right?
Yeah.
Should be the juicer.
He doesn't get the whole juice thing. Also he does look really good with the little sailor hat on him, but I guess in a cute way, not in a scary way.
Well, I guess it's a gay way for Shake, because that's the line. He's like, we're gonna get a rainbow flag on our lawn.
But see, that, like, Shake is so old school in his homophobia too. Is like, all you gay sailors. It's like, what is this, the 70s?
It is like an Archie Bunker kind of homophobia he's got.
Yeah, very much so. I guess that, in a way, maybe the writers are channeling a closed-minded relative of their own growing up.
But unfortunately, these clippers are electric, so they have like 30 feet to play with, and they become unplugged when he reaches Carl's door. So Willie Nelson can barely make it to the door with the hedge clippers intact.
I love Shake just saying, like, go, kill like crazy, kill them. So good. And the awkward animation of him, like, they write in the script, like, oh, he has to have a script page on his claw, and he's carrying 2 chainsaws, like, but the way they draw his feet, you can't do that.
It's just like one layer on top of the other, like just pasted on.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
I mean, if you're a younger person with no nostalgia for it, maybe just go like, that's the sloppiest crap I ever seen. But I love it. It feels warm to me.
So Carl is very angry about this.
What? What do you want?
Yeah, what do you want?
What are you doing here?
I live here, ass.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm just visiting.
Hey, you didn't get any of my mail by mistake, did you? Willie Nelson?
Hang on, let me look.
Eat me.
Well, if it shows up, bring it over. If you dare. God, I suck.
Okay, sit down. Tell me, how did it go? You told him your name, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, Bloodfeast Island Man. Just like you said.
And what else? Come on, don't be shy.
Well, of course, Bloodfeast Island Man does thirst for blood.
Yes, the thirst is part of his pain. Because the devil had sex with a dog.
Yeah.
And your mother
I know all about that.
was that very dog.
Yeah, I know. And as you know, because you wrote it, I do feel the need to kill again.
You crave it. And I guess our friend Carl knows that pretty well. By now, you know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think he got the point. You know what I mean? I get it. Oh, you sit there.
And that's when Carl shows up and throws Meatwad back at Shake.
Oh, that's so great. Like, yeah, the purple thing gets on Shake.
I think I just caught it. I've seen this like 30 times, but I just remembered in the clip here, like he says, "What are you doing here?"
That's right.
When he gets to Carl's door, which is what Carl should say when he opens the door.
Even with all that coaching, he still forgot his line and said the other guy's line. That's so. I mean, this is some of the best stuff Sharpling does in this because it's just so like natural. It feels. I wonder how much he's improvising there because like yes, and as you know, because you wrote it,
yeah.
Oh God, and then he's just so tired of like, well, of course, like that's him being so passive aggressive too. He's like, well, of course. Bloodfeast Island Man does thirst for blood. Like he's shitting all over Shake's idea, but Shake is too. That makes it even better. That Shake is too stupid to know he's being condescended to by Willie Nelson.
I really like how Shake's backstory just shits all over his mother. Just like your mother. Wait, what does he say? Your
dog was that mother that had sex
with the devil. Yeah,
and
your mother was that dog.
I love that. Even there, Willie Nelson can't get too mad. He's like, are you sure about this? Yes, I am sure. Your mother's a dog that had sex with the devil, which is so cruel to him. I wonder, what is the story of Willie Nelson? How does he exist? There's no real background.
I think he was just in the attic when they moved in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he just continued living there. I love how he mentions too. That's another little line I really love that feels like such a great encapsulation of like a deadbeat roommate or just like a neighbor you don't want to help is when he says, oh, I know it's sweltering up there. Can I borrow you guys have a fan? I'm going to borrow it. I'm not going to keep it. It's like, no, you are going to keep it. You want me to give you a fan and you're just calling it borrowing. Like, that's such a great line.
It feels like he's complaining to his landlord too.
Yeah.
So despite how like chaotic these scripts are and how stonery they are, like there is like a rhythm to it, and they go for like a third scare attempt. So it's like a nice set of threes that escalates each time. So the third time is the ultimate escalation. We see Carl's house. There's a bunch of like threatening graffiti all over it.
In blood.
In blood.
Yeah.
We know at the end of the show, we know he has a good supply of blood.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And we see the doorknob is hooked up with all these alligator clips. Shake is standing by with a cement mixer made of blood. And there's like a nearby like transformer hooked up to the doorbell.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing. Like clearly in Photoshop, they shrank down a bigger transformer thing they had and just like made it just the size of like a bathroom or something. But it's right there, not connected to anything, just on the ground. And I just love how this is where it hits Willie Nelson like, we're just trying to scare him, not kill him, right? He's like, killing is scary.
Exactly.
I love that.
And let's hear this final prank.
Ring it again. He's in there.
Hey, are we trying to kill him or scare him?
Killing is scary. Come on, it's Halloween.
I don't know if I want to be a part of this.
Well, too late. This is your work. It's got your name all over it. Enough of this. Fine. Thanks, Carl. You know, we didn't want you to come out anyway. Why don't you stay in there and have a little more drinky on me? Lower the blood.
Which liver is it? There's like 3 of them.
I said do it.
Okay, I got it. Hey, you hear me?
Yeah, that was friggin' awesome!
Give me some skin.
Oh, no, thank you. Think I got enough of your skin on my face here.
Come on, boy. I know where he lives. We gonna scare him good.
So yeah, Carl appears in the window with the incredible plum mask on and scare Shake to electrocute himself on the Transformer.
I wonder at what point they were told they couldn't make it the Hulk, that they had to make up a fake Hulk for it. Or maybe they were just remembering that on the Dexter's Lab they already had a fake Hulk.
Is Kronk?
Kronk, I think.
Kronk. I think Kronk is from Emperor's New Group, and Kronk is from Dexter's Lab.
You're right. Yeah, he's one of the Justice Friends, the infraggable Kronk. Yeah, I love that Carl, he wanted to scare him, so he put on the mask, but then afterwards he's like, oh yeah, you were just wearing this mask, so it's covered in your flesh, and I just have purple flesh all over me. But God, yeah, you talk about the timing of that, of just him, of Shake being such a dick, going like, all right, cue the blood. Which lever is it? There's like 3. I said do it. And then just like zap, electrocute, smash back over there. Blood pouring all over him as he's fried.
Despite how crude the technology is that's animating all of this, the timing is really good.
Yeah, and you would feel sorry for this kind of violence done to a character if they weren't an awful person like Master
and also
Shake.
a living cup.
And a living cup.
You can mutilate him as much as you want to, more than even Carl.
And also, if he was dripping something other than like yellow fluid or whatever his hands are made of, you might feel bad there too.
Yeah, in the finale, we go back to the house and Shake is in the chair, clearly horribly electrocuted, and his hands are just dripping off to the side of the chair in like pools of yellow liquid. His little like gloves are melting off.
Yeah, his gloves, which make no sense as it is, the yellow gloves that are his hands, they've now been liquefied and then they're just dripping out of holes in the side of him. I also love in this ep that once Meatwad is thrown inside of Carl's house, he just acts like he lives there with him.
He's going back for the air conditioning.
And how Meatwad said like, I know where that boy lives. Like, I love that delivery too. Like, of course you know, but he's a stupid, dumb child.
He's been an established character.
Yeah. But that Carl is kind of like, you know what? Carl is disgusted by Meatwad, but on Halloween, to fuck with Shake, he will befriend him.
Yeah, Carl is not awful in this episode. He doesn't really like the punishment he gets does not equal the crime in this episode.
There's usually he'll say something more disgusting in an episode to make you like him less. Like I just watched the Super Bowl one, and there's several lines in there where he's just like, whatever, man. Like I believe in that one. He says, I have never had consensual sex without paying for it.
Right.
That's the line he says there, which I choose to mean that's the only sex he's ever had, and that's the only way I choose to read that line.
Was that the trivia one, or is that a different one?
No, the trivia one, that's the Super Bowl one where Meatwad is eating enchiladitos and wins a trip to the Super Bowl, which I love that one too. It has the line where he says, Super Bowl's in Detroit this year. Home or RoboCop? Sure. So that's a good one, but again, there's still some lines in it that you just go like, yeah, all right.
You need an early 2000s brain to sit down and watch this. But let's hear our final clip.
Okay, let's review. What happened?
Well, we did it, guy. High five.
All right, over here, please.
You should have seen the look on his face. Oh, you did see it. You were there.
Oh no, I did. And I guess my eyes rolled back into my head once it reached the height of demonification.
Oh, you're right. I looked over. That's what you were doing.
Yeah, well, that's typical with dark powers of this nature. And Carl is freaking right now.
Yeah, what's left of him.
Yeah, well, you got it.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back up to the attic, get some juice, recharge my batteries.
Well, you rest up, because Carl's just the beginning. Tonight shall be forever.
Hey, Willie, you up there?
Yeah, come on up.
I actually found some mail for you.
I just got to get the light. There we go. Oh, just a missing persons thing? Oh, wait. Hey, I know this guy.
Oh, God.
Hang on. He's over here.
Hey, I just wanted to check out the Oh, my God, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a total mess right now. It's usually not like this.
How'd you go?
Hey, wait a second here.
Oh, my goodness.
Juice! Oh, I'm sorry. Did anyone want some juice? Guys?
So they make it to Willie Nelson's lair, and it's full of just like rotting corpses hanging in piles. And again, a very crude-looking show, but they animate like a light source in the shadows behind the corpses moving independently as the light moves in the attic.
Good job with that. Yeah, I do also. I love that the characters just turn on that. They're like, oh god, God. Like I think
it's weird to hear Shake actually alarmed and connected to reality in some way.
I think their reactions. I read Frylock's reaction like, oh my god, like he closes his eyes of him realizing like, of course. We didn't meet a monster who was just normal. He had to secretly be a monster. And that it makes the entire episode of him being like this kind of soft-spoken dude take a huge turn. You're like, wait, but he had been killing people for decades already?
It is a huge cheat. And Carl gets his arms torn off.
And when he talks about juice, he means blood.
Exactly.
So he actually is a blood feaster or blood drinker.
Not an island man, though.
Yes, yeah. He should live on Long Island if he's going to be doing that.
That's true. Another Trump thing I was thinking of, and I'm sorry, this is on my brain. It's just like lying to explain a huge mistake you made.
Oh,
and that was like in that scene in the beginning in the clip, they're talking about like, no, what you did worked.
Yes,
and you became a powerful demon. I was not electrocuted. Like you reached the height of demonification, and Carl is torn into pieces, right?
You're right. Yeah, he's obviously Shake should know he electrocuted himself, but he's already going into full denial of like, no, my eyes must have rolled back into my head while everything I wanted happened, and it definitely did happen. Yeah. And I love that Willie Nelson high fives the puddle when he says like high five down there. Oh God, it's good. But yeah, the reaction to seeing all of the corpses is great on all three. I love Meatwad's like, oh my goodness, like he's more of like a Southern Belle, like oh my.
He's got the vapors, and and Carl dies again.
Carl dies
presumably.
I would assume after he has 2 like armholes, he's probably bleeding to death out of those, or especially since they close it up and then barricade it with wood afterwards. Even if Carl somehow lived for more than an hour after that, Willie Nelson's going to kill him the rest of the way.
He's got more juice in him.
Yeah.
And this show was always so good with just the smash cut to credits because they have a hard way figuring out how to end the episodes. It's very much like Looney Tunes, where just like the iris goes up and it's all over.
Yeah, they. I love how many they got to kill somebody at the end of each one, at least one death, if not kill everybody. Like I just watched the one Total Recall where Carl just becomes a severed head and they keep trying to make new bodies for him, and that one ends with Meatwad getting some super robo suit that they had made for Carl.
Right.
Him throwing Shake into the air, and Shake's like, no, I want to live, and it explodes. Like, yeah, they killed usually one character dies.
There can't be continuity in the show, so it's got to be like a smash at the credits after somebody dies.
Yeah, and I think I probably said on the old one, but I can't believe like how it took me forever to hear him saying is dancing is forbidden.
Yeah.
Like I never caught that.
Which is just something he says in the first episode.
Yeah. I will say an update on Willie Nelson is that in the show's finale, which I also rewatched as part of this, they show that obviously there is no continuity between episodes and all that, but in that episode where they did treat it like a finale, Meatwad is the only one who survives of the two of them. Frylock and Shake both die. Meatwad moves on with his life and actually marries like a nice woman, a human woman. They have kids, and then he takes them to see where he used to live. So they go by the old house. And then when they leave, it shows Willie Nelson going out the front door, checking the mail.
Oh, that's perfect.
Willie Nelson, he's one of the last people you see in the final episode. I think he's the last shot, actually.
And who knows, it could come back.
I wouldn't put anything past him. I feel like HBO Max will try to bring back anything that could get people to sign up for HBO Max.
They have all of those resources on a computer somewhere, right?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. It can't even be widescreen. I want new episodes to be square.
Just like the reboot of Beavis and Butthead, the last one.
Yeah. Who knows? This next one better not be widescreen, unless unless Mike Judge feels it needs to be. But I want the only widescreen Beavis and Butthead thing to be a movie.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or make it widescreen. Just have like the side columns be like wallpaper, like when you're playing a virtual console game or something.
Oh, that'd be great.
Just like Beavis on one side, Butthead on the other.
Yeah, it should just be their heads extend out the rest of the way to the sides of the screen, and they just live there the whole episode.
And I also say, I'm sure I mentioned it on the last episode, but that was like 2 years ago. But if you enjoy this show, I also recommend the other show that Dave Wills created. No, not Squidbillies, but Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. And he created that with Casper Kelly, the guy behind the Too Many Cooks opening. So it's much darker than this. And very, very funny. Very, very funny.
You feel the main character in it. He's not exactly like Master Shake, but he is like a guy who you feel bad for, but he's also such a loser.
Yes.
You can't totally feel bad for
Played
him.
by the amazing Henry Zabrowski from Last Podcast on the Left. And Dana Snyder is in the show.
That's right,
He is a character in the show.
Zabrowski also has a bit of a Snyder energy to him in that he has just this perfect voice that it's like you have a cartoon voice, and I love it.
We just have podcaster voices.
That's why we're not acting in these shows yet.
It's true. Paint me red. Put me on stage.
I'll be in all the red makeup you want. I'll sit for hours in fake blood. Just put me in television.
But that was another tour of the delightful Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Again, you kind of had to be there, but I still really enjoy these, not for nostalgia factors alone. I think they're just I like things that are mean occasionally, and this gets pretty mean.
It's fun to go back to the meanness. Some things. Not everything has to be nice, but things. It's nice when things are nice to people and don't make them feel bad. But there's a bit of bad boy enjoyment to seeing Shake get away with doing all these things.
We are podcasting's original bad boys. Look out, we're going to take you down. But yes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of What a Cartoon. And if you want to support our network and get all these episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up there. You'll get just that. But also, if you sign up at the $5 level, you'll get all of our mini-series as well. You get instant access to all of the things behind the $5 paywall we've been doing since 2017. So over 3 years worth of content is yours immediately. And that includes things like, Talking of the Hill, Talking Futurama, Talking Mission Hill, Talking Critic. And coming very soon is Talking Futurama Season 2 Part 2, 9 new episodes of Talking Futurama to get you through the rest of 2020 only on the Patreon at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And if you sign up at the $10 level, you'll get all of that stuff plus access to one mega long podcast once a month just for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
Why, Bob, you're talking about the What a Cartoon movie podcast. For $10 and up subscribers, they get this premium exclusive podcast where me and Bob, often for up to 4 hours, talk about an animated feature film in the same way we talk about cartoons on this podcast. Upcoming, we've got for Halloween, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, the rebirth of Scooby-Doo. Last month, we did Return of Jafar, the direct-to-video film that launched 1 million Disney sequels, and we have a giant back catalog. Who knows, someday we might even do the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie.
Oh, my God. Now we should. I'm looking forward to that in the future.
For sure. But for now, if we do that one, we got to do the episode that's all just deleted scenes as well.
That could be the other one but that month before the movie one.
But you can only hear the entire full 2 years of back catalog of What a Cartoon Movie if you are a $10 and up subscriber at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
As for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. And my other podcast, by the way, is Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast about old video games. Find that wherever you find podcasts or go to patreon.com/Retronauts and sign up there for access to 2 exclusive episodes every month that are only for patrons. So check that out at patreon.com/Retronauts. Henry, how about you?
Hey, I'm Henry Gilbert. Follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG to stay informed about what is going on in my life. And also, you should be following on Twitter at Talk Simpsons Pod. At Talk Simpsons Pod is the official Twitter account of this podcast and the sister podcast Talking Simpsons. If you follow that, you will stay up to date whenever new podcasts go live on the Patreon or on the free feed, or when we have new polls going on to vote on stuff. You will stay informed if you follow at Talk Simpsons Pod on Twitter.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We'll see you next week for the Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode. Jeepers, it's the Creeper, and we'll see you then.
Who's this, your frickin' mother?
No, Carl. It's your neighbor, remember? Willie Nelson? I was driven here by the villagers.
Well, villager.
Well, the villager.
Yeah, that's a great story. See ya.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk, too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.